For us, it's unacceptable. And I don't think the Democratic Republic of Congo is a global exception when we say that it's unacceptable to negotiate directly with an armed group that bombs camps for displaced people, kills and massacres civilians, rapes women, plunders natural resources, and is also guilty of attacks on peacekeepers. This red line is not exceptional. Every other self-respecting country that respects its position as a United Nations member would never agree to talk to an armed group like the M23 and give it this degree of legitimacy. There is a very specific framework for dealing with Congolese armed groups, and that is the Nairobi process. There's no special treatment, and certainly no reward for looters, rapists and murderers.
So how do you interpret the Rwandan president's refusal to come to Linda? Maybe you should ask him that question. But if I have to answer you, it's because he refuses to witness the death of his creation, because in reality, signing an agreement with the government of the Democratic Republic of Congo would mark the end, as we've already demonstrated in countless ways that the M23 doesn't actually exist. It's a group of puppet auxiliaries recruited to cover up these unhealthy activities, which mainly consist of plundering our resources. The Minister of State has already said several times, the war is economic. The motive pursued by the M23 is to seize mining areas to ensure that Rwanda continues to be supplied, as it has been for 30 years. And today, for us, in the President's strategy, especially on the military, diplomatic, media, economic and judicial fronts, it's about putting an end to all these maneuvers. So his coming today is just a way of delaying the inevitable, because we'll ultimately achieve our goals through the various strategies we've put in place. And that must be very clear, which is why, on this specific issue of the East, we're saying that the media and all Congolese people must stand united behind the President of the Republic. And we knew today who wasn't coming. Simply because when they look at the profits he's making through population displacements and systematic looting, he couldn't find his place in an environment where we want to talk about peace, in an environment where over several days and months of meetings, the teams have come to agreements with ours. Just a reminder of this crisis, 10,000 online ads daily. Here's how a man's life would change if he A country of 100 million people, hate speech. Secondly, he was talking about the refugee problem. The Deputy Prime Minister who preceded Madame Laminta in this position signed agreements with the Rwandan side under the auspices of Philippe Grandit in Geneva to resolve the refugee issue, and then there was this recurring, unfinished question of the EDR. But we made concessions because we want to move towards peace when we talk about neutralization. And so today, there was no longer any excuse on the table for us not to take this step forward. But when you're obsessed, when you've been feeding for a long time on the blood and minerals of the Congo, you want to maintain that appetite. But as I told you earlier, we'll eventually put an end to it.
So don't hold one last question against me.
Go ahead quickly then.
Is this a refuge to claim paternity of the M23?
But as I said at the outset, it was obviously the paternity of the M23 that was claimed, because before that, they were always disguised. If the M23 were truly a Congolese problem, why should Rwanda make it a requirement in discussions with the Congolese? Why? It's a Rwandan affair that they're trying to make Congolese, because among us there are traitors who choose to join their camp, hoping, unfortunately for them, that they can kill Congolese to gain power in Kinshasa. It won't happen again. They'll have both the President of the Republic and the Congolese people against them. We're going to move on with Mr. Eric.
Thank you for giving me the floor. Madam Mineta, You said and mentioned that it's a failure, but at the same time, you talked about